Alrighty, folks, so TikTok is filled with pro-Hamas people standing for the terrorist group. We're going to go through some of their videos, and we will see what shining, bright moral lights they have, how much nuance they can provide. This video is sponsored by our friends at Genucel.
Whenever you start losing hope, just remember that this hashtag, the ones that say stand with Israel, got millions of views, but the Palestine ones got multi-millions of views, baby, almost triple. Don't ever let the media fool you. The people stand with Palestine. This is with all of the money that Israel spends on propaganda. It doesn't matter. The people are still hashtagging Palestine way more and viewing it way more than Israel. So don't ever forget that.
You know why that is? Because there are 15 million Jews on the planet, and there are a billion Muslims on the planet. That would be the reason. I love the conspiratorial. Oh my, the Jews with their money and those moneyed Jews. But we are still winning because the people love us. Or maybe there are a billion Muslims, and a huge number of them hate Israel and are anti-Semitic.
Be very careful of what you say about Israel. Any believer going against Israel, you are making yourself an enemy against God.
I don't know how this Zionist propaganda made it to the black community, but it is incorrect. First of all, Palestinians and Israelis worship the same God. It's the God from the Abrahamic religions. Second of all, Palestine is not going against God by not wanting to give up their land to Israel, land that they've lived on for hundreds of thousands of years.
Whoa, hundreds of thousands? That's an amazing piece of news. Hundreds of thousands of years Palestinians have been living there? That's kind of strange. Hundreds of thousands of years. Well, this person's a historical genius. As far as the Palestinians and the Israelis are worshiping the same God, it is true that Allah and God are the same God. It is not true that the Palestinians are worshiping the same God as the Israelis, not in this conflict, where Hamas is worshiping a death cult.
If the U.S. and the European nations are so for Israel, they should give them land from Europe or land from the United States to live on.
The Jews are indigenous. The Jews are the indigenous people of the land of Israel. It's why Judea is called Judea. God, the historic ignorance here, suggesting the Jews are somehow the colonial outpost in the Middle East, when Jews predated the existence of Islam by some 2 millennia or so. It's so crazy. These people don't know anything. They're so ignorant, and they are so unbelievably stupid. By the way, the argument that she's making about repatriating Jews to, say, Europe, where last time Jews were repatriated there, it ended really poorly. You know what I noticed? If you look at a map of the Middle East, Israel is like this big. And if you look at all the Muslim countries surrounding it, they're like this big. And yet none of them are taking in any of the Palestinian refugees. Weird how that works. Strange. Doesn't matter that 800,000 Jews were expelled from Arab and Muslim lands in 1948 to 1957. That doesn't matter. And that Israel took all of them in, and 0 Palestinians have been absorbed by anyone in the surrounding area, specifically to use as a tool against the Jews. Now, really, the United States should set aside a part of Montana for the Jews, in the historic Jewish homeland of Montana. God, these people are just, I can't even critique the stupidity. Every moment I spend with these people makes me dumber. It's unreal.
They should let them make a country there, not on Palestine.
Palestine is a fiction. Palestine is a fiction. It was made up by the Romans after the expulsion of Jews in 136 CE after the Bar Kokhba revolt. And it was made up with the name Palestine specifically to mock the Jews, because it was supposed to be a representation of the Philistines.
The Bible does not say anything about Israel, because Israel was created in 1948 when the British and the United Nations decided to fight a war with Palestine.
What the f*** is she talking about? What in the world is she talking about? Fight a war with Palestine? In what sense? This is such pseudo-history. These people are morons. They're morons. The British mandate was in place until 1947. The Balfour Declaration declared a Jewish state on both sides of the Jordan. That would be Israel and what is today Jordan. And then, over subsequent years, the British then whittled that down. They cut off all of Jordan and handed it to the Arabs. They then cut off most of the land of Israel and handed it to the Arabs. Israel and the Jews accepted every one of those deals, every one of them, including a rump state that was indefensible, what was called by many Jews the Auschwitz borders after World War II, because it was so indefensible. The Jews accepted every one of those deals. The Arabs rejected every one of those deals. What the hell is she? And then she's suggesting that the United States and the Brits fought a war against the Arabs here? The British, during the 1930s, restricted Jewish immigration into British Mandate Palestine at the behest of the Arabs, leaving millions of Jews to die in Europe. It was so bad that the Jews in Israel had to smuggle Jews in boats, trying to evade the British in order to get Jews away from the Holocaust that was happening in Europe. The Jews were forbidden from actually importing either guns or ammunition into British Mandate Palestine, necessitating the creation of underground bullet factories in the state of Israel in order so they could even defend themselves. When the British mandate ended, the British summarily turned over many of the key strategic locations and weapons to the Arabs. Again, these people don't know history. They don't even pretend to know history. They Google something on Wikipedia and then promptly fail to even interpret it properly.
And cut that country in half to create an ethno-state for Ashkenazi Jewish people. And ever since that war, Israel has taken more and more and more of Palestine's territory.
Okay, Israel accepted the partition plan by the UN in 1947-48. The Arabs rejected it and launched a war. Israel won the war and got a little bit more territory. In 1967, the Arab nations launched an all-out war to destroy Israel, and in 6 days, Israel took the entirety of what is now modern-day Israel, including Judea, Samaria, and the Gaza Strip. In 1973, another all-out war by the Arabs. In 1979, Israel gave back the entire Sinai Desert to Egypt. In 1995, under the Oslo Accords, Israel surrendered the Gaza Strip as well as large swaths of Judea and Samaria to terrorist groups in order to attempt to buy a peace. These people don't know anything about history. They don't even pretend to know anything about history. It's absurd. We'll get to more on this in just 1 second. First, our friends over at Genucel have launched a new product. It's called Genucel 3. It works fast on your under-eye bags and puffiness. Genucel 3 is smoother, more luxurious. It uses advanced technology to deliver complex vitamins and minerals directly to your face for instant hydration. It's like Gatorade for your skin. Not only has Genucel been a longtime partner of this show, my family's been using their products for over a decade. They first advertised on a local show I did in Los Angeles like a decade ago. The product was so good we continued to use it even when I wasn't even doing that show anymore. They have crazy fast results that correct skin blemishes right before your eyes. This new Genucel technology keeps your skin looking young and healthy for years to come. The Genucel Fall Classics package also includes a jawline treatment for a more firm neck and jawline. It also includes Genucel's anti-wrinkle moisturizer and deep firming serum. Go to Genucel.com/Ben for extra discounts on this amazing fall package. Get your skin ready for the cold and dry weather. If you don't look and feel your absolute best, you'll get your money back. No questions asked. That's Genucel.com/Ben. Again, check them out at GENUCEL.com/Ben. That's Genucel.com/Ben for a special deal on their fall package. Genucel.com/Ben.
We will never feel ashamed of our support of the Palestinian people. We will never be harassed into silence.
Black student organizers at Harvard are being attacked by Zionist and right-wing forces for their support of Palestine. Their faces are being shown on trucks around campus, accusing them of being anti-Semites.
Well, okay, actually, can we fill that in right there? The reason that those trucks are on campus is because a bunch of student groups signed a statement blaming Israel for the massacre of Jews and backing Hamas. That would be the reason. That would be the actual reason.
But despite these efforts to derail their organizing, they say they will not be deterred.
We resolutely stand in solidarity with the Palestinian resistance against the apartheid state that is Israel. It is genocide of the Palestinian people right now.
Shamefully, it is primarily black and Arab students that are facing the brunt of these racist attacks.
Oh, I mean, I feel terrible for you. I feel so terrible for you. You're leading a terrible life. I mean, you're the subject of such racist attacks. I mean, not like the babies who were burned to death in the Gaza envelope, but really, it's been very rough for you when people actually show your face on a billboard and say that you hate Jews when you're clearly standing for a terrorist group. I feel so terrible for you. Ugh, the horror. Ugh, the victimization.
But none of that changes our solidarity with Palestine. We believe in a free Palestine from the river to the sea.
Ah, there it is. From the river to the sea. The river to the sea, by the way, is extermination of Israel. It's the Jordan River, the Mediterranean Sea. That means no Jews, all dead. That's what that means.
The leaders of past resistance movements never cowered and never shied away. We are here today to do the exact same.
Okay, well, that's fine. You just don't have to work for any big law firm. That's okay. It seems to me that if you are a big business, if you are a legal firm, you have no obligation to hire people who support baby murderers.
Actually, Hamas started this whole thing. Remember October 7th? Actually, that's wrong. Before October 7th, Israeli security forces killed 248 Palestinians, and 40 of them were children, and that was just this year. And if you want to go back further than that, we can look at the recent history of war crimes committed by the Israeli government. Operation Protective Edge in 2014, Operation Pillar of Defense in 2012, Operation Cast Lead in 2009.
What started each one of those operations? Islamic barrages of rockets into civilian centers in Israel. That's what started each one of these operations. I love this moron. I guess the idea here is that if you point out that what has caused the current conflict is the massacre of 1,500 Jews, like, well, before that, Israel killed other Palestinians. And you're like, yeah, but why would they do that? And the answer is because they were associated with terrorist groups. And he's like, yeah, but what about the conflict before? Oh, you mean because the terrorists were firing rockets into Israel? It's an infinite regress of dumb here. Just name a bunch of operations without actually explaining why the operations were initiated.
Yeah, but you don't mention why Cast Lead happened. Hamas fired rockets into Israel. And that was because Israel broke the ceasefire agreement they had on November 4th, 2008, while the entire world was in euphoria over the United States electing its first black president, Barack Obama. Israel used the opportunity to break the ceasefire agreement and raid Gaza and kill Palestinians.
For no reason, they're just raiding Gaza, just for fun. They just raid Gaza. To do what exactly? To steal their nothing? What would the raid entail? What would be the purpose of such a raid? Can you explain? Like, what are the great valuable jewels being held in Gaza that the Israelis desperately need to get their hands on? Israel so desperately wanted not to be in Gaza that they surrendered the place to a f***ing terrorist group for 20 years, who then spent every last dime building rockets and terror tunnels so as to murder 1,500 Jews. You know, and one thing that I've noticed, they keep saying they're running out of power, they're running out of fuel, they're running out of water. You know the thing they haven't been running out of? Rockets.
Well, you're leaving out a lot of context. You got to go back further than that, to 1967. Yeah, let's go back to 1967, when Israel started a preemptive war.
Egypt was mobilizing its air force.
Syria and Jordan, and took more land from Palestine, further enclosing Palestinians into the Gaza Strip. They illegally occupied the Gaza Strip and the West Bank in what has been formally condemned ever since 1967 as an illegal occupation in violation of international law, unilaterally condemned by the World Court.
Who gives a shit about the World Court? You mean organizations staffed by people who hate Israel, and the UN and the Red Cross? Like,
the UN, the Red Cross,
oh my God,
the Geneva Conventions,
the Geneva Conventions.
Consensus.
He's doing this in defense of Hamas, the Geneva Conventions.
In the world all call on Israel to return to its pre-June 1967 borders.
That's not even true. That's not even true. Even the UN resolutions, which are garbage and stupid, even those UN resolutions call on Israel to surrender some of the occupied territories. Not all occupied territory. Those are disputed territories. Some occupied territories.
Yeah, but you're missing more context. You got to go back to 1948. Okay, let's
go
back to
67 was fine.
In 1948, Zionists extirpated about 1 million Palestinians from their homes and forced them to relocate to the Gaza Strip.
What? Excuse me, in 1947-48, there was a full-scale war between Arabs and Israelis. Somewhere between 700 and 800,000 Palestinians either fled or were expelled from areas where there was military activity. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians left in the lead-up to the war and during the war because all social services had collapsed because the Arab nations were telling them to get out. The other part is that you may have noticed many Arabs remain, which is why 20% of Israel's population currently is Israeli Arab. The Gaza Strip was then governed by Egypt. I don't see this guy calling for Egypt to form a Palestinian state in the Gaza Strip. The West Bank was completely occupied by Jordan from 48 to 67. No call for a Palestinian state. Weird. Weird. Again, the Jews took in 800,000 expelled Jews from all the Muslim countries in the region during the same period, took in all of them. I don't see this guy calling for return of the Jews to their historic homelands of Morocco, their historic homeland of Egypt and Iraq.
Today, about 70% of all Gazans are considered refugees from the 1948 expulsion.
Okay, pause that for a second. How is that even possible? Seriously, how's that even possible? Well, folks, unfortunately, there's a lot of crap out there that is just like this, and so we had to do a part 2. That's coming shortly.